Good evening, sci-fi fanatics. What are we going to talk about? Gotham by Gaslight.
Oh yeah. If you haven't heard, oh by the way, I'm Joe. That's Ben. Say hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
There you go. Never gets old. We're going to talk about Batman Gotham by Gaslight, the latest DC animated movie. And it's the third R-rated DC animated movie after Batman the Killing Joke and Justice League Dark. I'm very excited. This is one of my favorite graphic novels, and now it's a full-length movie, and let's get into it.
That's one thing that DC has been kind of, not necessarily hitting home runs on every single one of them, but the animated films are just fantastic. We were just at the store the other day, and you showed me, like, what was it, I think, 15 or 16 films, like, the Steel book, or what was it?
Yeah, it was the big collection
Oh, yeah.
of the DC animated movies, pretty much from Justice League Doomsday all the way up to, I think, Batman and Harley Quinn last year, so it's like 20 some odd movies for like $250, $300. And that didn't even include all of their animated movies. Even within that context, yeah, there's a lot of them. And they don't always hit the mark, but most of them are damn fine.
Yeah, I'm loving the DC films anyway. So I just saw this last week, and I loved it. I had to watch it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Really, really good stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of a bold move for them to do an Elseworlds story, and Elseworlds, by the way, is an imprint of DC Comics. It's kind of like an equivalent to Marvel's What If, only instead of being a monthly issue, they're usually graphic novels, but it takes DC characters and puts them in sort of alternate timelines, initially meant to be just kind of standalone stories, like what if Superman landed in Russia, which became Superman Red Sun, what if Batman fought Dracula and became a vampire, which would be Batman versus Dracula 1 and 2. However, of course, DC has to make sure that all of their alternate storylines are designated in an alternate Earth with their whole multiverse thing, which is a little silly. But this based on the original 1989 graphic novel. It's the first of the Elseworlds stories. Before DC even launched the Elseworlds title, it sold really well, and they went, "Hey, this is a good idea. Why don't we just keep putting our big heroes, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Flash, in these alternate storylines, different eras, see how it plays out." There's Batman in the Middle Ages, things like the Batman as a samurai, things like that, or as a ninja. I thought this was pretty impressive for them. It's something I think fans of the graphic novel have been waiting for. Once the animated movie started adapting other graphic novels and storylines from the comics, like Batman Year One, Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, The Killing Joke, I think naturally we all went, "Well, where's Gotham by Gaslight?" And they did it. They did it. Did you like it?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The things that stood out to me right off were Selena Kyle's character,
Yeah.
of course, and of course James Gordon. Those those are always a favorite, but just really a cool twist and everything. Of course, everybody feeling slightly guilty about using Bruce's money always.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Definitely an interesting take on the Batman mythology in the Victorian era. The things I thought stood out about it is Bruce Greenwood, the Canadian actor from, you may know him from playing Captain Pike in the new Star Trek movies set in the Kelvin timeline. He was also recently on the Netflix Stephen King adaptation of Gerald's Game. Used to be on the TV show Nowhere Man. He's a very fine actor. I used to watch him on a show called The River that was a Steven Spielberg production. It was a very good show. And he's returned as the voice of Batman again. And I think probably they've had a lot of really good actors play Batman in these animated series. Kevin Conroy is usually the go-to guy, but he doesn't do them all. And for my money, Kevin Conroy has been the definitive voice of Batman for a number of years in animated form. But I really think Bruce Greenwood is probably my second favorite. He just brings a power to the character that I like.
Let me ask you quickly. So, do you feel like you read the graphic novel? Do you feel like it was portrayed as well as in the novel, or do you just different and still good? Or personally, I was actually surprised at his as Batman was very surprised at his abilities, his skills,
Yeah.
his skills at fighting.
Yeah, and I mean and little spoilers. We're going to get into some spoilers here, but for those who haven't read the graphic novel, and I apologize, Ben, I understand you haven't read it.
No, I haven't.
But and you may want to show an image of that. I'm going to actually loan it to you. I've had first pressing. I bought this thing from the old Night Flight Comics at the old Cottonwood Mall back in I think it was September, October of 1989. I was really looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite stories. Beautiful artwork by Mike Mignola, the creator of Hellboy, who also did all the cover art for the Death in the Family storyline, where they killed Jason Todd, the second Robin. Written by Brian Augustine, who also wrote the follow-up called Batman Master of the World. Mike Mignola did not do the art for that. In fact, it's an interesting thing you bring up this graphic novel, because this movie really is different from the graphic novel. It retains elements between Batman Gotham by Gaslight and Batman Master of the World, but it's really not a direct adaptation. Where where the Killing Joke was the last half of Killing Joke was basically almost a panel-for-panel adaptation of the Alan Moore, Brian Boland legendary graphic novel. But they did do a little bit of filler in the beginning to stretch out the time, and also to get audiences sort of interested in Barbara Gordon and Batgirl, and so that what happens to her in that story is a little bit more, it impacts you a lot harder. They didn't do that with this particular film. Instead, they took the elements from the two sort of Gotham by Gaslight. They took the two sort of graphic novels and kind of merged them, but they changed the narrative and they added more to the Batman mythology, which at first, when I first heard that they were doing this, I was a little concerned, because it does stray from the material quite a bit.
Right.
I mean, even downright to who Jack the Ripper is.
That was, I mean, oh, right, exactly, and that was, and that in itself, a lot of people had problems with in The Killing Joke. At least everybody I spoke to, because of course I have read the novel and I have.
Well, they didn't like the intro with Batgirl.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. Yes. That particularly, like that, yeah, that whole intro, and I'm really said it had to do with fleshing out the character, and then of course filling the time.
Yeah,
isn't that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they just when you start watching from the point where the graphic novel actually begins to where the graphic novel adaptation ends in The Killing Joke, talking about The Killing Joke here, it would only be like 30-40 minutes. So they definitely had to. Now the irony, it's not irony because nobody else was aware of this, but a few years before this Killing Joke and Gotham by Gaslight got animated, I was actually thinking, wouldn't it be great if I was an idea man pitching stuff to DC Comics? Because I thought, what would be cool is to do an adaptation of some of Batman's best graphic novels, but in an anthology format, where they could exist in the time it takes to tell the story, which is a lot shorter than the feature, where you'd only have to do one or two of them. And I thought, Killing Joke and Gotham by Gaslight would be perfect, because if they were just literal adaptations of the graphic novels and then bookended, it would have fit 70, 80 minutes. You know what I mean? But they did, they obviously that's not the way they went. They decided to make full movies out of them, and there are a lot more changes to Gotham by Gaslight than Killing Joke.
No, it just made me think. You have to forgive me. So, The Killing Joke, but that was a modern time.
Well,
story.
Yeah, that one takes place. Yeah. I mean, I think the movie takes place in the present. Obviously, the graphic novel is 1988.
That's what I meant.
Where Gotham by Gaslight is set in the Victorian era. Just real quick about go ahead.
Sorry, no. It just made me literally think of just right now. Like, since you mentioned that 88 thing, it just made me think of that new film that they're at least DC has been talking about doing a Joker movie produced by Scorsese, etc. We don't have to go into this. We don't have to get way into this.
One could dream.
But since you said 88, it just made me think. He said specifically it's going to be taking place in the 80s. Do you think that they would actually dip from that, or take from that, or even use that, or possibly recreate that?
Honestly, I believe that if they did set it in 88 and it's a younger Joker and a younger Batman, because it would be a dream come true to have somebody like Martin Scorsese, who isn't just a crime thriller or he does a lot of films about crime and about mafia, but that's not all he does. We all know that. But he's really good at it. So to have him do a more sort of mafia gangster take on the Joker, where not like Jared Leto's Joker, where he's been in prison and is tattooed up. He's he didn't go to Blackgate. He went to Arkham Asylum. But to have it more to do with the Joker's sort of however they would think about doing it, I believe with Scorsese doing it, it'd probably be more psychological. So I'm willing to bet that elements of what Alan Moore and Brian Boland did in The Killing Joke would probably be presented. And also probably the Death in the Family storyline. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it is a younger Joker, it is set in the late 80s, and Batman's got Robin with him. It's probably the Jason Todd Robin, so that you could see the Joker beat him with a tire iron and then blow him up. Which, by the way, back when that issue aired, they had a hotline. Vote. You vote to save Robin or vote to kill him? I hated Jason Todd. Worst Robin ever, so I had to vote. Kill him! I think I ran up my mom's phone bill more than I had calling the Santa Claus thing, you know, just to say, kill Jason Todd. Plus, I felt, you know, the power of the fans to be able to decide the fate, you know.
And so did they do that? You have to forgive me. Did they actually use the fans' vote to decide whether it was?
Absolutely. It was the fans' vote. It actually, in a lot of ways, it disturbed kind of the industry. It really disturbed the writers and editors of DC because they thought, there's no way people are going to vote for him to die. And they had written the storyline where he lives and then one where he dies. And they thought, I mean, it's Robin. He's kind of a punk, but they're not going to kill him. And then when all of us voted in yes, and it wasn't like a landslide, it was kind of a narrow margin. There were a lot of people that wanted to see Jason Todd live and maybe grow into becoming a better character. I wanted him to die because I wanted him to get somebody like Tim Drake, whom was the next Robin, the perfect Robin, next to Dick Grayson, the original. But yeah, I think it just kind of surprised everybody. They went, oh crap, now we really got to do this. We got to commit to it.
Imagine if that was happening for films now.
I know.
It's like the way things and how upset people get about characters in films. Like how upset people get. Vote on my channel here. Vote here. It would be utter chaos.
Maybe that's what they're going to have to start doing is, do you like the way this new movie, the franchise went? If not, let's kill it, start over. I mean, it would just be insane. It'd be a lot more expensive because everybody would have to, like there's 2 endings to Avatar now. Let's pick the ending where they all die, and we never have to see another sequel. That I would vote for.
That is actually just a crazy thought, and I remember you had mentioning that about the Robin thing. Have they, just real quick in the history of comics, what other things have they allowed fans to vote on and made in the story, or just in a nutshell?
You know, I don't think anything as high profile as that. Not in my recollection, anyways. It was kind of a huge thing, but I do think it was a big gamble on their part. I don't think it's a risk they were necessarily willing to take. But they do have votes occasionally through different comic book companies on like costume designs and artwork for a cover. Like, do you think this is a good art cover or that type of thing? But I think that was kind of a once in a lifetime thing. But or maybe not once in a lifetime, but certainly doesn't happen very often. I mean, they gave us no choice about killing Superman, you know, so which was good because I think if they wouldn't have, I don't think they would have ever done that, and it's a pretty ballsy thing to kill off a character like Superman, even though you know he's coming back, just like with Captain America, when Marvel killed him, you know they're coming back. Only, I remember we were juniors in high school when they killed Superman, and they went 3 months without publishing a Superman title.
Wow.
Like, after the second month, man, I started to get like chills up my spine, like, is that? No, I can't imagine a world without Superman. Whether you like him or not, he's iconic.
I do remember that happening, and remember it being significant. And everybody I had spoken to about it, I mean, at the time I wasn't reading the Superman comics, but I'm an avid reader now as much as I possibly can. But at that time I wasn't, and so I just remember anybody I talked to, oh my gosh, it was catastrophic. But just the fact that I didn't know 3 months. I hadn't realized
3 months.
They waited that long.
And I mean, that must have cost DC quite a bit of money too. I mean, 3 months. Without publishing, without selling an issue of one of their top-selling comics. I mean, it's always come down to between Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Justice League is like their top-selling comics. Not that Lobo hasn't gotten big, or Constantine at one point or another, The Flash, but like that's the Holy Trinity and the golden superhero team. And so to risk losing money on not publishing, I mean that's really risky. But it worked. It really, those of us who were like, nah, he'll be back next month, they'll come up with the story. And then the month goes by and nothing. Then a month goes by and nothing. By the third month, you're going,
what's going on?
Wow, they really committed to this. And then, of course, they did the year-long bringing him back and introducing the Reign of the Superman storyline. And a lot of that, really, I think a lot of those big decisions that they were able to pull with killing Robin, killing Superman. A lot of it stemmed from the fact that comic books, especially superhero comic books, were changing because of stories like Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns and Batman Year One, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons' Watchmen, Alan Moore and Brian Boland's Killing Joke, because I think it was showing that comic books are not just for children, which the comics industry had known for a long time at that point, but the general public didn't. And it was just raising awareness of really how powerful the medium is in our pop culture, and it's not something to just be read and tossed aside and completely dismissed. It is a legitimate art form. And it really does have a place in our pop culture. I mean, especially now more than ever when we've got more video games, television shows, and movies based on comic properties than we've ever seen.
Especially when it makes you literally addicted to the stories.
Yeah.
You're addicted to the characters and the stories, and that's what's built the fans to make these films so important, and so the characters are so important. We're addicted to the stories and those characters and what happens to them. Just real quick in a nutshell, then, in your personal preference, would you ever have a preference between the film or the graphic novel of this Gaslight, Gotham by Gaslight?
Well, on that one, where Killing Joke's concerned, I'm going to have to take the graphic novel. The movie's great, and I love to watch it. Of course, Mark Hamill, Kevin Conroy, always a pleasure to hear their voices. Definitive Batman and Joker. With this one, I think I'm going to have to sort of accept them on their own two terms.
And just
not really do the comparison, because and again, we're not going to break down the entire story for you, but essentially it's a what-if scenario. Batman in the Victorian era in Gotham. Jack the Ripper comes to town. He's doing the same things he did in Whitechapel, based on what we know of the real killers, following the same methodical, surgical dissection of women, mostly prostitutes. And of course, a sort of almost steampunk-looking Batman has to take him on. But after that, that's really the only thing that connects the two, the film and the comic book. The movie, real quick, it opens up more of the characters from the Batman mythos, like Selena Kyle's in it, Poison Ivy's in it. You've got the Robins, the street urchins, who are Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Tim Drake, the three Robins.
And so none of these are in the graphic novel. Then?
No.
Oh, okay.
Like they mentioned Harvey Dent, or
okay.
Harvey Dent's in it.
Okay.
In the original graphic novel, Jim Gordon is the only one who's in it, and his role is significantly different in the graphic novel. If you go back to that image of the beautiful image of Batman in the alleyway where Jack the Ripper sees him for the first time and kind of loses his mind, it's a completely different story. In this story, and I am going to spoil this for you, so if you haven't read the graphic novel, here you go, real quick.
Hold on. Spoilers. This is for Gotham by Gaslight graphic novel. Spoilers.
Yes.
And for the film.
For the animated film as well. Because in this graphic novel, and my enormous head might be blocking the image here, but if you can see this, in the graphic novel, Jack the Ripper actually turns out to be a friend of the family to Bruce Wayne. He's a physician. He fell in love with Martha Wayne, and she constantly rebuked him because she was in love with Thomas Wayne, and it kind of drives him crazy. Now Jack has moved from London. This was at a time when the Waynes were in England, because they're wealthy, they're affluent, they travel, they roam with all the wealthy people in England as well as in America and probably France and wherever else. This guy becomes so obsessed with Martha that he feels like she's constantly taunting him, and he sort of feels that way about all women. That women are... He's definitely a woman hater. I mean, Jack the Ripper targeted women. He must be, but they get into a psychological aspect where he's a man who's tormented by women. He feels like women are laughing at him, but he also feels like women are dirty, and they need to be the dirty women need to be killed. And they
did actually outline a lot of that in the film. Just to point out real quick, they did. When you find out who he is, and I'm not sure if I actually want to spoil that.
I don't think we should.
Yeah. So we were not going to. That's one thing.
Because the movie is very different.
Honestly, yeah. But the movie that I did see, they did outline that he's got this huge beef with purity and all these things, and women are impure, etc. Yeah. Bizarre things, but anyway.
That's actually loosely based on what we understand of Jack the Ripper. Is that he used to send these letters addressed from hell to Scotland Yard.
Didn't he demand that they be published? Is that correct? Or
yeah. He definitely wanted to be known. He wasn't. He was operating in the shadows, but he was publicly announcing these murders. And there are all kinds of theories that lead into who Jack the Ripper was.
Did he announce them before they were going to happen, or did he announce them after, or was it both?
From what I understand, and again, I'm not an expert on Jack the Ripper, but I have seen some fictional films as well as documentaries about him. It was something that would usually be addressed after the murders were done. Sometimes I believe even sending pieces of the victim to Scotland Yard. And it was definitely...
And he was never found, right? He was never discovered at all.
As far as we do not know who Jack the Ripper is. So a lot of people posit that he's more than one person. A lot of people posit that he is just a singular person.
And never mind. I guess anybody could just read Wikipedia on this. But did he give himself that name, Jack the Ripper? Was that his idea?
I think he signed him Jack. I think it was
okay.
Jack, and I think it was the press that dubbed him the Ripper or the Whitechapel Ripper because he was killing women in and around Whitechapel. Which even now it's a place where if you go to London, there's a lot of. Well, I think there's a little bit of us tourists if you're over there, kind of going, oh, this is where that all happened. Cool. I'm standing on the streets where several women were disemboweled and killed. It's fantastic. It's gruesome. There's a lot of people, a lot of theories that posit, which is what's cool about why they were able to use Jack the Ripper in this storyline, is because, I mean, we've had our own serial killers here. There's even a notorious serial killer in the U.S. I believe his name was H.H. Pounder. He was around the same time, the Victorian era going into the Edwardian era, and I think a lot of people have assumed that may have been, that's another conspiracy, that may have been Jack the Ripper, that he was an American, he was killing people and women in London, and came back to the United States where he built basically a murder mansion and was killing people there. It leaves so much open.
Why else would you build a mansion? For murdering, of course.
Murdering. Welcome to my malevolent murder mansion! I would do that. Like Sweeney Todd.
I mean, come on. If you're gonna murder, do it in style.
Do it in style.
Just beyond. As far as touring, I know it's kind of bizarre. I did actually go to Alcatraz and see that, and they actually do have a very very cool audio. At least at the time I went, it was like 7, 8, 10 years ago.
One of
those 15 different times that I guessed. And that you put on headphones and you go through your own audio tour,
right.
And there's a guy who kind of tells the stories, and there's actual audio, kind of like a radio audio broadcast show of it,
like archival stuff.
Yeah, and just like putting you through the experience of like all the people who actually had escaped from Alcatraz, like the story of these two guys who would just stuff like that. Yeah. It's interesting, but beyond that, yeah, it is kind of bizarre how people will. Emulate that or kind of get excited and interested. I mean, it's a story, so for whatever that's worth.
And it just worked in a way that in the graphic novel it worked so well that fans we were just so excited because Batman's character, and especially being a detective, this story in the film and in the graphic novel does play up a lot of the detecting aspect of Batman, which you would see in the animated series. You don't see nearly as much in the live action films as you'd like to see because he is the Dark Knight detective, and above all else, besides wearing a costume and being a champion and beating the crap out of bad guys, he really is a detective, in the Sherlock Holmes mode.
Which is why everybody is so excited about, Matt Reeves doing the Batman and, having it be this dark detective type of film.
Hopefully it'll have a little bit of that noirish quality because these elements that translate well with Batman is he's adaptable. You can put him anywhere in time, future, past, and he can still be the same character. It can still be the character that you know and love. You can put him in humorous situations like Batman the Brave and the Bold cartoon, or you can put him in really serious situations like the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight movie. He's just a character that translates well, and placing him in a Victorian setting against Jack the Ripper just felt like a no-brainer. When I first heard about this graphic novel, I thought, well, of course. But at the time, DC didn't have the Elseworlds title, and it sort of kicked off. And by the way, Gotham by Gaslight was like a national bestseller, because it was coming off the heels of the Summer of Batman, Summer of '89, which was the Tim Burton Batman film, had just blown the character to ridiculous proportions. There was Batmania in the '60s with Adam West, but it reached new levels of insanity with the Tim Burton film, and it was everywhere, and so that was the perfect time for them to re-release The Killing Joke. So I bought like a second edition of The Killing Joke, which I still have, but then buying the Legends of the Dark Knight series just began about a month before Gotham by Gaslight came out, and it was just perfect timing, and it really did add to the level of sort of milestones in comic books. It showed that you could have a standalone Batman story that had darker elements, that wasn't modern but was still fresh, and it showed that it can sell well and that you can do a whole series on it. And I mean, what can you say about Mike Mignolia's artwork? I mean, the man gave us Hellboy. He's just amazing at this sort of simplistic yet complicated style. I've seen some people imitate it, but nobody does it like Mike Mignolia.
It's great stuff. So do you have anything more to add before we move on?
I would like to, I'd basically just like to say that with all the differences in the movie between the graphic novel, it's still a bold animated film. It's good that they didn't water it down to a PG-13 level. I don't mind that they expanded the sort of universe by introducing other comic book characters and elements from the sequel, Batman Master of the World.
And I actually really liked that. I actually did love that. I love the fact that they did involve Selena Kyle and James Gordon and all these people that are typically in Batman's world.
Yeah.
So for me it was that was a real big plus.
Yeah, I figure it's sort of like an Elseworlds. It's loosely based on Gotham by Gaslight and Master of the World, but it's also its own unique thing that's expanded on. And I would say out of the animated movies, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 4 stars. I think it's a solid film. I think you should watch it. And that's my review of the film.
Yeah, I mean. And I've seen, I believe I've seen almost all of the one. I think the one DC animated film I haven't seen is the Arkham. What is it? It's the Assault on Arkham. That's the one I haven't seen. But I
Plus
actually,
Vixen. Did you see the animated Vixen movie?
No. Okay, that's 2 I haven't seen. But anyway, I have seen a ton of the DC films, and this one was a fantastic. I really did enjoy it.
You should do yourself a favor. It's probably on iTunes. I know it's on Amazon. It's on Microsoft, Xbox. I don't ever buy from there, so I don't know. But buy it, rent it, stream it, watch it. It's worth your time if you're a Batman fan.
Better quality on iTunes, anyway. So that's my my 2 cents on that. So anyway. So we're just going to segue that to just another thing that actually brought me into, and as Joe was kind of messaging me and telling me about some cool things, telling me, hey, check this out, this Batman versus Jack the Ripper and everything, and just really kind of a cool thing. I had just recently watched this Limehouse Golem, which was really a fantastic film. It's on Hulu, and starring Olivia Cook, of course, and
Bill Nye.
Yes, of
My
course.
main man, Bill Nye.
And this actually, just a quick segue, and this actually made me think of Gotham by Gaslight in the sense that I really wanted to see, more specifically, I want to see, this is just something I will never see in film, but I would love to see Batman telling someone, can I get a copy of your handwriting so I can
match it up, because that's one form of detecting that's changed.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is going quickly back to Gotham by Gaslight is seeing Batman do the detective stuff, but the old school way,
and not having all those, and not having these, like in the Dark Knight, how he uses bullets, he's able to recreate fingerprints, with bullets and everything.
Yeah, it was very traditional. It was almost following in the mold of Sherlock Holmes. You know what I mean? And I really appreciated that because it still kept that detective angle without having. In fact, he doesn't really have many gadgets in this. I mean, he had he really did. He's got the grappling gun, which is kind of a standard, and the batarang, but that's about it. Otherwise, it was just detective work and good old fisticuffs. No Queensberry rules. It was like that. None of this stuff. That's old school. But yeah, this Limehouse Golem. Now I haven't seen it. I've been reading about it, and it's got my man Bill Nye in it, when you'd know from Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Boat the Rocks, Love Actually. He's been on Doctor Who. He's in World's End. What was some of the? What's he most known for? Outside of that, anyways, the guy's been in a ton of stuff.
Things.
I just had a brain fart because I love the guy so much, and there's so much that he's done. And I actually just found out about this movie tonight. It came out last September in the UK, and I think limited release here. Ben's telling me it's good. I want to see it, so I'm going to hear him talk about it.
And honestly, I'm just going to take a couple minutes because I only watched it once.
Go
Go ahead.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's what I was thinking of with Bill Nye.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So anyway, just this made me, and that's basically how they're able to determine or find their suspects is literally by now I need you to write this passage. And and they literally I did this. This is how I killed. And it's like
no DNA testing at the time.
Yeah, and it's so funny how they just can literally tell from someone's handwriting. So. If you were a killer at the time, you had to probably work on your penmanship,
have to do different penmanship,
and able to frame other people's. And it's just funny how that was the way they probably found a lot of killers. But that's
also may have accidentally imprisoned the wrong people as well.
Yeah.
Just say.
Oh, but I don't dot my J's.
Guilty.
What's up?
Guilty.
Anyway, that's just the
guilty. That's my Superman 2 for you right there. Guilty. Dude, that's how courts should be done.
Yes.
Everybody should be standing in two spinny circles, like two hula hoops glued together. And you should just have, like, one prosecutor and a ton of floating heads. White, old British guys going, guilty. And then we should send people to the Phantom Zone. No more prisons. Can you imagine how much we'd save on taxes if we didn't have to pay for prisons? We could just put people in the Phantom Zone. I'm just saying.
Honestly, Yeah, I mean, it's just I mean, it's just a floating mirror in space. I mean,
come on.
I mean, no.
It's probably created by the Time Lords because, like the TARDIS, the Phantom Zone is bigger on the inside. But tell us more about Limehouse Golem.
I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it is amazing. It's fantastic.
So is it like a Gothic style, Victorian style, like murder mystery with a serial killer, or is there supernatural stuff involved?
No supernatural stuff. It's definitely what you said first. In a sense, it's very Gothic. In a sense, I mean, it starts off with just like two different crimes, and you're led to believe. I don't want to spoil this for anyone at all. I just honestly,
no spoilers on this.
It's actually just a beautifully shot film. Lots of really cool twists and everything, and a great murder mystery with a really actually kind of cool love story for a few minutes, and just really cool stuff. And of course, I love Olivia Cook. And
now what else has she been in?
I fell in love with her when I first saw Bates Motel.
Okay,
and
she was in Bates Motel.
Yeah, she was alongside Norman. She was the one who was trying to keep him
from going psycho.
Trying to keep him into the fold and keep him kind of grounded. And she was a great friend to him, but he was just would kind of just do crazy thing after crazy thing.
Yeah.
I actually love Bates Motel, so anyway, I'm a big
never saw it. I do love the Psycho film. Well, Psycho and Psycho
the original,
2.
right?
Yeah, the Hitchcock. I don't mind Psycho 2. I actually don't mind Psycho 3 that Anthony Perkins directed himself. And Psycho 4, the beginning, is basically Bates Motel. Bates Motel is basically, it's like they went to the idea of Psycho 4 and said, okay, Norman in his youth and growing up and his crazy mother, we can expand on that because there really is a lot of ground to cover where that movie, Psycho 4, The Awakening, only covered, and it jumps a lot through Norman's past, so there's big gaping holes of time that the television show could fill in. So I didn't feel like it was a travesty, like how dare they make a Psycho TV show. I just never got around to seeing it, but I've heard lots of good things about it. Whereas Hannibal, on the other hand, who I've got friends that will probably punch me in the face for not loving it, couldn't get into it. It was just too far-fetched for me. And personally, the only Hannibal Lecter movies I watch are Manhunter and The Silence of the Lambs. Everything after that, I've just not enjoyed. Didn't enjoy Hannibal Rising. Hated Hannibal, the third one. But that's just me. But yeah, going back to
anyway,
Limehouse Golem.
I didn't need to spend too much time on it. We just wanted to say it's really good. It's on Hulu, and it's an underrated film because not a lot of people have seen this thing, or at least not a lot of people I've talked to, and it's great.
Got like an 87% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so I believe it's worth watching. I'm going to check it out. So that's good. A little underdog movie.
Yeah. Anyways, really good stuff. It just made me think of that because I really wanted to see Batman ask someone to write this for me. It's Batman. Just write this for me. Just like standing there and making people write stuff out for him, and he just couldn't.
Yeah, if it was Christian Bale's Batman, he'd be like, write this for me. But if it was, and I'm probably blew your ears out there, but if it was like, like a normal Batman, it would just be cool to hear him like, want to see your signature. Write this down. You know, that kind of a thing. Suddenly he sounds like Peter Cullen from Transformers. He's just like, now, let me see your signature. That would just be funny to me.
Sign this.
It's like standing in a lineup, turn to your right. Now repeat this phrase. Hand me the keys. No, I'm not going to do
Write
that.
this. I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
Okay.
Do you bleed? Oh, and Eddie Marson is in the Limehouse Golem too. I'm seeing in the cast listing. Eddie Marson, I like that guy.
Yeah.
He's Lestrade in the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes movies. He's working for Inspector Lestrade from Scotland Yard. He's in The World's End, the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Edgar Wright film. Okay. He's a good actor. I like him a lot.
But anyway, the reason why we had tied these two together is because they both take place in the 1800s in London, and they're both about murder. And apparently, like I learned today, that a group of crows is a murder of crows. Is that a real thing? Is that
actually
real?
You know where I learned that? Sting. The song
Sting,
All This Time back in the day.
Oh yeah, okay.
Priestley Black like a murder of crows, and I thought, what the hell is a murder of crows? And then, because I probably didn't pay attention in school, as I rarely did, and then come to find out, it's a murder of crows. I mean, how cool is that? That is the coolest, weirdest thing.
Oh, look, everybody, it's a psychopath of geese and a murder of crows!
Fantastic.